my staff members and to my team because I couldn't do it without them. So yeah. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
If I could say something, I wanted to thank you all for all that you're doing for our students. It's been decades since I was in college, and I still wake up wondering where my class schedule is in a sweat. So I still remember how it is on the campus. Not even the first time, not even the last time. So the work that you're doing, I appreciate a great deal. And I always say the best thing we can do is to stay out of your way and let y'all do the wonderful job you do.
Okay, thank you. Board members, you now have the opportunity to talk about some of the things that you've done over the last month. And you can also feel free to brag about yourself, too, if you'd like to do that. So anyone's free to tell us about their activities over the last, and Art has volunteered to go first.
I guess so, I guess. First, I want to kind of echo the remarks that our chancellor mentioned about our chairman, the board. I was up there at in New York for the conference where he was selected. He got the highest number of votes to gain that position, which is very admirable, and we're very proud of him. But just like we just heard a very inspiring story, personal story, he was able to. Other people were able to listen to his story as well, and how it impacted his life, and how he's able to give back. And I was sitting in the audience, so I could see people listening and also very proud, very excited about him being on the board. So I wanted to start with that. The other, the final session of the board kind of relates to the discussion we just had with the students. Some of you may know that one of our former students was a featured panelist in the closing session of the conference. Aguilar? Michael, yeah, thank you. Very smart, very articulate young gentleman. Again, made us proud. He mentioned that he attended Lone Star. And he was on a panel to describe what kind of challenges students face, and so that the rest of the board members kind of see what they can gain from that. And the entire time, he thanked, he was very grateful for the support and help he got at attending Lone Star. And I think it was Cypher, right? And so he made us look good, and I was proud, and I made sure I went to speak to him afterwards. But the conversation the kind of questions that were being asked, because this was a panel, were how did you make it? First generation, had to work, and you hear all these common themes that we're listening to today, and he basically what you just mentioned, the kind of support a student needs, especially first generation, that he said Lone Star gave him that, there's a lot of personal commitment from the teachers, and it's just made us look really good. One of the things he did say that one of his challenges was that his parents had to move because they couldn't afford, or it was too expensive to live in that area, and then he said that his parents had to move to a more affordable area. But he was happy there. He had solid support at that school, and I think he was in one of the honors program, maybe. Yes, right. So he wanted to remain there, and so his brother agreed to live with him, and they shared costs. And without giving you the whole story, because it is recorded, so I wish we get a chance to look at it, some of the answers. But he was very successful, and now he's at the university level. I forgot the university. Remember? But everybody wanted to talk to him afterwards. Hearing the presentation about how those kind of programs, for example, the mentoring and the the highlights that you were discussed right now, that's what he said he needed or was able to get there, and I'm glad to hear that. North Harris as well. I've been listening to the Bridge program and some of those other programs. And I don't think a student like that, like we're talking to afterwards, he don't get a chance to thank his teachers and people like that. So I just want to make sure I did it for him, and to understand that I know we do it. You do it for your commitment and to you believe in helping students and the community. But never forget that you're making a difference. So I just wanted to share that, and I hope we get to listen to the rest of it, because there are some very key points that talked about financial aid and areas that very insightful about how we can improve and continue to do our job well. So I just wanted to share that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
Sure.
you, Art. And also, thanks for all the help you gave me in New York.
Yeah, I loved it.
And one of the things, Art, I was in my room trying to rest, and there was a group of 80 or 90 people downstairs. He said, "Get your butt down here," because he wanted me to meet all those individuals. So I really, really thank you for those contributions. Anyone else?
I just want to real quickly thank Jennifer for her presentation. It was very well attended, and you had lots of folks, come up to you and ask questions. So that was really good. Jennifer made a presentation about AAA and bonds, and also Dr. Ardeland. I mean, you did a really, really good presentation as well, together with Chairman Smith. So thank you so much for representing Lone Star College in New York. So, and congratulations again, Chairman Smith.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, Ken?
Yeah, I just want to say I attended one of the conference, and the state of California has increased their success rate for African Americans from 6 to 66%. Being an engineer, I said, look, I would like to discuss this, but you got to send me those numbers. You got to tell me how you got there. But anyway, they revised the math program. If you have a desire to go into STEM, then you stay with the regular math. But if you have no desire to go into STEM, then the only thing they're requiring is statistics. So that's a pathway that they said has really turned things around for California. And then the other, I would say, item that I think is important that they're doing is we talked about culture. You have to be certified to teach kids of color. And there's a certification testing that you go through, because they want to make sure you're connecting with these new kids that are coming on board. And having this discussion, I thought about the Advocate put out a report about kids in and out of jail and dealing with the parole and that sort of thing. That's that 21st century student. The other thing is I attended the political public policy discussion concerning the financing, and the speaker, Roberto Zarate, he said something that I guess I kind of walked away from it and my head was spinning, but he said that he believes, and I'm, you all have to back him up on this, he doesn't think that it's a good deal the way things are going with respect to policy, and he thinks that the community colleges in Texas will suffer as a result of public policy and cutting the funding. So that was something that he was kind of really harping on. And it just so happens, while they were having that discussion, there was a group of people in there from California. And what they said is that they do not have a problem getting money, and they're going to, in other words, the problems that they see us having, they're not having those problems with their funding being cut. In fact, they're getting everything that they demand, and that they were willing to share this with the community colleges in Texas, but they are doing an excellent job, and they're fighting and taking personal responsibility and going out and making sure that they get what is needed from a financial standpoint.
Okay, thank you, Ken. I'd like to echo what Miriam mentioned about the fine job that Jennifer and Shaw did in their presentations, 2 separate presentations. So Lone Star was well represented. Both rooms were full and very interactive. And folks made all kinds of comments about the availability of those individuals for employment at their college. And I told them they were not seeking any opportunities at this time. But I felt real good about you all's work, and thank you all for all that you do. The other thing I wanted to mention, and Helen, I think I'm forgetting the name, I had an opportunity to speak to a group of students, and I think it was about 30 students, and about 5 or 6 from each college, and they were part of Leadership College. I guess I'm impressed by most kids, but I was really, really impressed, by these particular students. And so they wanted to listen to me talk for about an hour. And as you know, I like microphones, so I had no problem doing that. So I went over, and after the session was over, they followed me out in the hallway, all of them, and so they made me late for my next meeting. But the thing I was impressed about, though, those students were so interested in what happened to me and how I was able to do the small things that I've done. Several of them have called me at home to talk about, stuff that they're encountering. And so I felt real good about them following through on that kind of stuff. So I really, really enjoyed that. And a couple other things I've done over the month, but I won't mention those for the sake of time. Any other comments from anyone? If not, and I'm going to let Dr. Head lead this, we have 3, I feel, outstanding individuals that will be leaving our great board at the end of this election cycle. One of them is Ron Trowbridge. He moved to California, and he announced that a couple of months ago. And so I've had about 4 or 5 calls from him since, still interested in the Lone Star family. Dr. Dave Holsey will be leaving next month, and also Dr. Kyle Scott. And I know Dr. Head is going to do some other stuff, but I would just like to make a quick comment about all 3 of those individuals. And the first one I would like to talk about, just a little while, is I've known Ron Trowbridge. I've known all these guys now for 4 years, 4 years effective next month. Ron Trowbridge is a very, very dedicated educator. All he thinks about is how to best educate students. And he's still calling, asking about, and writing about how students can be educated and et cetera. And when you see Ron, sometimes you wonder, whether he's that serious, but he is that serious about education, so we're really going to miss him. Dr. Holsey, I remember when I first came on the board, and he was so enthusiastic about the new program that started out at Tomball. He had gone to a workshop and found a program that addressed students that had special needs. And he brought that program back to administration, and that program was implemented, and it's going quite well. And as I get older, I don't remember stuff, and I think it is being duplicated at another campus. I think it's Montgomery. So that just tells you that there's growth, so you're leaving a legacy, with that, and thank you, for bringing that to us. You all know that he is a dentist, and he talks about dental hygiene everywhere he goes in our dental hygiene programs and the success rates that we've had in dental hygiene. And I hope we get an individual, that will replace you, with those same type enthusiasm about programs that are successful. Dr. Scott has added a lot of value, and the thing that I cherish about Dr. Scott, and he doesn't like me to say this. Oh, by the way, this guy's an athlete, so we won't have an All-American athlete on our board anymore, I don't think. So unless I replace him. But Kyle Scott is an individual that has, I don't know what his IQ is, but has to be exceedingly high. What was that?
So it depends on who he's talking to.
Oh my God. That can be interpreted several ways. Okay. But I'm amazed at times how he takes the board book, read that board book very thoroughly, can tell you where every misspelled word is. He can tell you what words need further explanation. And sometimes say, but Cal, be quiet. And you finally realize, man, he's right. I wish I could do that. I'm just jealous I wasn't able to pick up on that. And he's brought a lot of good things to our board, and we're going to miss him. He's an athlete also. He's much younger than Dave, so he's going to last much longer.
He just finished a triathlon in Waco,
Did he win?
I'm sure.
Well, I'll put it this way: you participated, I haven't, so that's winning. And so, Cal, I wish you success, and I know you'll be successful in whatever career you choose. I've talked too much. So, you want to take over? You want to give him a chance to speak first?
Well, everything I was going to say, you already said, but
Oh.
I would.
Well, I apologize.
No, it's fine. But I wanted to thank Dr. Trowbridge and Dr. Holsey and Dr. Scott and myself for a couple of reasons. You mentioned a couple of things, but I know when Dr. Holsey first came on the board, you're the one that asked for a copy of the budget book, right? Because you wanted to do
Yes.
technology. Yeah. And I never forgot that. And Randy, I think you may have been the chair at the time because he was going to go through all the detail, which we'd be glad to give that to you. But, the budget books, if you print the whole thing out, everything, it's like a big book. But I think that in the Life Path program, he went to ACCT and he came back and said, would you guys take a look at this? And we talked to Tomball, and now it's expanded to, or will be, at Montgomery. And if we don't do anything else, we're helping students with cognitive learning disabilities. We're one of the few colleges in the country that are doing this. And I just wasn't aware of the program, and I think that's what we need board members to come back and say, hey, can you take a look at this? And I'd have to say that...
I didn't really say, will you take a look at this? I said, you're going to do it.
Well, I was...
And they
That's what he said, by the way, among other things. And then with Dr. Scott, I have to tell you, he's really caused us to elevate our game, and that's the reason I say that is we have repeated meetings over the board agenda to make sure that all the numbers add up, because when he first came on the board, he did some multiplications, and we were off a little bit, and he caught every single one of them. So now we're very, very careful. But I'll have to say, his questioning about, and Dr. Holsey too, about budgets and the way we do our business, we deal with it all the time. So sometimes I think that we're not as clear as we should be. And so it's helpful to us. We want the board and the community to know what we're doing. We're trying to be very transparent with everything, but if you don't tell us sometime, and so they've been very helpful in helping us to do our board presentations in a different way and our reports in a different way. And it's made us really review everything and make sure that we're responsible to taxpayers. I've got that. So thank you both for, they've been both personally and professionally really easy to work with. Neither one of them has, it doesn't bother them to tell me what they're thinking, which is okay. I need that periodically. Not every day, but I need that. But thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've done. So, and we have a couple of special gifts.
Oh,
As long as it has 12 cylinders.
By the way, I want to make sure we're going to give that to all board members before it's over with, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to show can I see? Yeah. So those are plaques, and this is for the rest of you. We have one of these. I know we're just giving it to them tonight, but we're going to give you board pictures. And I made them put my picture in here so you wouldn't forget who the chancellor was. But, so, thank you. thank you. It's been really a lot of fun. I hope neither one of you go away, so.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So,
You guys have an opportunity to say.
later? Now.
Now.
Now? You want to go first? Sure. Why don't you close it out? I don't want to follow you. This is going to take a while, guys. Teachers. For all the programs we develop, fund, and implement, there is one characteristic that defines the success of each: dedicated teachers. It should be the job of this board to get out of the way of good teachers. I believe you just said that. I came on this board with that outlook and leave with the same. My opposition to many of the initiatives at the beginning of my term came from this outlook. If I could not see how a policy would remove impediments for good teachers to reach students, I opposed it, for it was either a distraction or some unnecessary relish. My view has changed somewhat in that a Spartan regime is neither necessary nor advantageous for good teaching, but neither is excessive spending. There's a diminishing return associated with per-pupil expenditures, in which there is no benefit for the student past a particular point. It's about how the money is spent, not how much of it is spent. I am biased towards teachers. It has always been teachers who have put me on the right path. Up until my senior year in high school, I was stupid. I know this because everyone told me I was. Parents, teachers, coaches, whoever you ask. But it was one English teacher, Miss Sartori, who turned me on to books. But she did it as a last resort. She was fed up with me, which wasn't uncommon, and told me to get out of her class, find a book, and write a report. Any book I wanted. So I found the most objectionable book I could at the Cypress Creek Public Library, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Thomas Wolfe. I finished it, wrote a report, and begged her for other books just like it. I never went back to her class. Instead, I met her after school to discuss my selection for the week: Slaughterhouse-Five, On the Road, Crime and Punishment, Huck Finn, Walden, Candide. Miss Sartori understood that teaching is not about the teacher, but about the student. Teaching involves the highest forms of discovery, the awakening of students' minds and souls to the world of creativity and imagination. My own teacher, the reasonable Mr. Lentz, put it, a good teacher challenges students to join in the continuous, meticulous, and solitary questions of the mind, end quote. At the end of my senior year, I had a full bookshelf, but no idea what I was going to do. Dumb kids don't go to college, so I was going to get a job. Miss Sartori had other ideas. She arranged for me to take a trip to North Harris Community College. North Harvard, if you remember. I figured they had books, so I enrolled. During my first semester, I took a course with Larry Schertz. I was working as a waiter and was offered a manager position that would have forced me to drop out of college. At 19 years old, $40,000 was a lot of money. Schertz knew my story and knew what people had taught me to think of myself, and he said, if you wanted to show them how truly stupid you are, drop out of college. I never looked back. I now have more degrees than was normally considered healthy. We all encounter teachers, and not just in the classroom. When I joined this board, I was all about obstruction because I didn't see the point of a lot that was being done. Sometimes I angrily opposed, and some of that even spills over today. Sorry, Dr. Riley. For those of you who are around it in 2013, Shaw, Catherine, Steve, Helen, Link, thank you for not running for the hills. I'm better for having known you and for the silent challenge I felt to show each of you I had the best interests of this college at heart, even if I went about it a bit differently than you wish I would have. Steve, I'm not sure what it says about you that you wanted to work more directly with the board that I was on. You were at that first budget meeting where I kept us for a solid 6 hours of questioning. What were you thinking? Whatever it was, I'm glad you're here. You were the right person at the right time for this college and remain so today. During my first couple years on this board, I was, to put it kindly, as someone once told me, spirited. I'm no less so now, but I think I've become more diplomatic thanks to my teacher, Dave Holsey. He would not give up on me no matter how much I rebuffed his efforts. He kept coming because he knew I could be effective if I would be more thoughtful and tactful. I would have been a better board member if I had listened more. That is the fault of the student and not the teacher. Dave does more work for this college and with his fellow board members than anyone will ever know. It speaks directly to his character that he does it without broadcasting it, asking for praise, or any thanks in return. Thank you. The role of a board member should also be about empowerment, to be a voice for those who do not otherwise have a direct official role in the policymaking process. And Linda Good tends to see this in much the same way I do. While we disagree on everything, we oddly find ourselves on the same side of many issues that I have considered to be of the utmost importance to this college. She is passionate, engaged, and energetic. I hope all current and future board members take a lesson from Linda and prepare as diligently as she does and think as carefully about these issues as she does. But let me be clear. Board members are not activists or managers. We do not push agendas or special interests. We do not tell the administration how to do its job. We evaluate and hold accountable. We do not manage. We communicate. We oversee. We craft policy. Dave Vogt has, in his own way, influenced me greatly on this point. One need not be the most vocal to be the most thoughtful, intelligent, or influential person in the room. In fact, quite the contrary. Dave chooses his words carefully and picks his spots. And when he does, he usually gets it right and cuts to the heart of the matter. Dave is an exemplar of a board member who does what he should all strive to do. He does what we should all strive to do, to fulfill our fiduciary duties on behalf of the LSC community. No agenda, no special interest, just doing what's right for the college. This board is lucky to have him, and I'm lucky to have learned from him. Thank you, Dave. There is no group a Southern conservative opposes more than a union. Coerced collective action, the promotion of mediocrity, it shakes me to my bones. And yet there is no group at this college I've engaged more than the AFT. No matter where one stands on an issue, one has to respect passion, dedication, and intelligence when it comes to the public forum. I will miss the insights of John Bergdorf at board meetings, as well as those of other AFT members who chose to speak. I will miss the conversations before and after board meetings with Alan Hall, Jim Good, and Earl Brewer. They care about this college, and for that, I've excused them for their sin of union membership. I have one request of the AFT, as I do for anyone else who works at this college. Focus on the students. Perhaps it is naive, but I'm inclined to think that the primary concern of teachers ought to be the students. Believe it or not, I hate confrontation. I hate being the dissenting vote, and yet I probably cast more dissenting votes than any other board member, ever. It's possible I dissented on more votes than any entire board prior to 2013. I don't like it. It makes me an outcast. Like anyone else, I want to be welcome. And I knew with every dissenting vote, I would make people angry, people who are good at their jobs and who care about this college and whom I like. There was, however, always one person in the room who would not be angry, not because they agreed with me, but because they were a friend. Knowing I had one person in the room who would not be angry was enough to steel my resolve to do what I thought was right, no matter how unpopular. Officer Hood, thank you for being a friend. Thank you and all the other officers for the selfless work you do on the first Thursday of every month and every day you are on the job. This college is safer and better off because of all that you do. He's not here so I can talk about him. Dr. Trowbridge, a teacher to us all. He has demonstrated that one can be thoughtful, impassioned, opinionated, loud, obnoxious, and yet still lovable. We could all learn from Dr. Trowbridge to take life seriously, but not ourselves. So in closing, and in an ode to the absent, I've now told you more than I know.
It's your time.
My turn. I'm supposed to follow that.
Well, you had your chance to go first. You won't do that again, I guarantee you.
You know, it's kind of like my working out. I used to go to the gym and work out to improve my 5,000 meter time. Now I go to, at this age, to go improve my posture. So anyway, I'll give it a shot. Okay, so it's Gerald, Catherine, Ceopa, Shaw, Leanne, and Rebecca. I've known a number of college presidents, and each and every one of you are singular. And I've come to each and every one of you with some request for some student about something. And I know that at some point, somewhere in the conversation you were going, what is he thinking? And thank you for not saying that, and thank you for your help. You have been magical to people that are close to me, and I could go on forever and name names, and thank you so much. And I can really say that about so many of the administrators, staff, instructors. I have plenty of stories. You know how long I've been doing this? Well, really 13 years.
Oh, that's close.
And you might say, but they're 6-year terms. How come you're serving a 13-year sentence?
Yeah.
Well, it's a longer time for bad behavior. I don't know. They changed the rules in my first term, and it added a year to my term, so it wound up. But anyway, I'm going to start at the start. I came on the board, and Dr. Scott thinks he was a bad boy. I don't know but it took me a while because I was used to running stuff, right? And as a board member, you don't run it. You set policy and all the other stuff that Kyle mentioned. You know, he's written 5 books. You can go on Amazon. He's written 5. I've read them. Not all of them. 2 of them. Bought them. No, he gave me one. I bought the second one. They're good. I would promote it to you. He's really good at what he does. Anyway, I came on the board, and after a couple of train wrecks, I got to know a gentleman that was on the board, and his name is Randy Bates. And, you know, if you look at Randy and I, you would think, boy, different as night and day, right? And we are different, but I had come on the board and kind of forgotten a tenet that I used for a long time, which is if you're going to cross a minefield, the best way to do it is to follow somebody, right? I mean, if they wear brown shoes, I wear brown shoes. You know, because if you want to do something, find somebody that's already done it and just copy them. You're guaranteed. I mean, it's throwdown my entire career, and I've had a magic life in my profession. But I got to know Randy, and he decided that murder was not an option with me. I don't know. And took the time to spend with me at board meetings, after board meetings, Starbucks, conventions, wherever, building openings. You ought to hear the guy give a speech, knock you out. I mean, the man in front of a room is magic. And he taught me. And Randy, I want you to know that as far as I'm concerned, when I came on the board, it was 2006, and you know, Lone Star is about, 40,000 students, somewhere in there, budget of 250, 245, it's a million, you know. And Randy was the chair through that first explosion. And I mean, it was light speed. And I remember asking him one time, is it always like this? You know, and his answer was no. But he taught me. And he taught me by example to wait and to listen and to understand and then speak. And I mean, I just didn't fall off the turnip truck, but watching him was watching a master at getting the job done and leading. Randy, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. You made all the difference for me in this job and allowed me to make whatever difference, you know, I might have made. And I think half the difference I made sometimes was by shutting up. But I really appreciate you being here, and you will forever be a person I admire, respect, and cherish. And so I'm going to wind up with 2 more people for the time being. Kyle covered everybody fairly well, except for Dr. Head. I got to hire Dr. Head. Second best thing I've ever done. And he took on the job when it was huge. And is huger a word? I can use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
You can say, the job is not the same job as it was 13 years ago. Not even close, right, Randy? Not even close. And the job that Steve took on was, I would not have the job. You couldn't pay me enough money for the job. And he took it on and has done a magnificent job. And perfect? No. There was a guy here that was perfect at one time, but he left about 2,000 years ago. He'll be back, but he's not here right now. And so I wouldn't expect perfection, but it's so close. You squint, it looks perfect. And I really appreciate your work and your work ethic. He'll outwork you, guaranteed. And lastly, a woman who competes for my affection along with my wife. And this is a young lady who came along after I came on the board and has made the difference, because I am not a details guy. I'll have something on my calendar and it says Lone Star, but that morning I'll go, gosh, I wonder where that is. And when I go on a campus, it's like landing on the moon, okay? And there's 6 of them, okay? And they keep building buildings, Luckily, they put signs out for guys like me, board meeting this way. And but when this lady came on the board, everything changed, or came to the college, everything changed, because I could call her and say, Helen, where am I supposed to be? She didn't laugh, She didn't make me feel small. She made me feel like, oh yeah, well, everybody's making this call, And has made everything I do on the college easier, gets me to the right person to talk to. And Helen Clarity, little girl from the East Coast who talks with a Boston accent. She says y'all every once in a while. I've caught her. But truly a difference maker. There's people in your lives, I guarantee you can count as difference makers. And you might think, well, she's just a board liaison. What's the big deal? Difference maker. Different, my go-to, find out, get it done, get it communicated person. And you've made my whole tenure on this board fun and better. Thank you so much. And thank you all.
Yeah, go ahead.
One last 2 things I want to add is, speaking of the dissenting vote, I actually remembered when you voted the first time for the budget, and you leaned over and reminded me that was the first time you had voted for the budget. So I remember that day, by the way. And secondly, on Dr. Hulte, he did more, and I should have mentioned this to begin. He has helped more students than you know about. Very quietly, very just. You've got a person, can you talk with them? And I know the college president's been very helpful with that. The other thing is, he gave me the best piece of advice, the only piece of advice well, that's not true. My wife gives me a lot of advice, but he gave me great advice that I haven't forgotten. He said, after I was hired, he said, I have one piece of advice for you, don't screw it up. And I think about that a lot, by the way. Because there's a lot of decisions we have to make. We come to a fork in the road, it seems like, about once an hour now. So I haven't forgotten. I may put that on your tombstone or my tombstone one of these days. But thank you both.
All right. Thanks, guys. And Dr. Halsey, you have one other job to do.
Okay.
After the election, there will be a new slate of officers. And I would love for you to chair the nominating committee and work with Miriam Saldivar and Art Murillo with bringing back a slate of candidates for chair, vice chair, secretary, and assistant secretary. And their report should be ready, must be ready, before whatever the meeting date is in December. December 6th, okay, thank you.
I think.
Well, whatever the first Thursday in December is. Got it?
Helen will know.
Yes, okay. And Helen, if you would put a call up on your calendar, call him about midway through to make sure that he does what he's supposed to do. But thanks, guys. Thanks, both of you. Okay, Helen, do we have any citizens?
Yes, one tonight, John Berta.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am John Bergduff, representing the American Federation of Teachers. At the October meeting of the Board of Trustees, several union members spoke about comprehensive proposals for changes in policy and procedures in the areas of campus safety, collaborative government, adjunct workload and compensation, and grievances and appeals. These proposals were crafted by working groups of union members over the summer in response to an employee survey the union conducted last spring. We sent copies of these proposals to the members of the board through the college's board liaison, and we also sent copies to the general counsel. Although there is a lot to read, we hope that you've had an opportunity to begin to take a look at these proposals. Our proposals are also posted on our website, aftlonestar.org, for anyone else who is interested in seeing. Union folk believe that good ideas that move an institution forward often rise from those working in the trenches. We will continue to advocate for these specific changes, and we will offer more opportunities for employees to propose additional ideas. One of our working groups is still formulating solutions on an area of concern to many employees. Tonight, I'd like to give a status report on this area. We will have more input in future months. For some years, employees on the staff side have been concerned about whether their job classifications are fair and accurate, and whether compensation for similar work across the system is consistent. Lone Star has hired a sequence of consulting firms over the last several years to try to address this issue, and the most recent one has completed a first phase of review. In this first phase, a number of employees were identified whose pay fell below the minimum salary for their pay grade, and their pay was raised to the minimum. In October, updated job descriptions were posted online for employees to view. These were very good first steps, but we need to make sure the work does not stop there. Our working group identified several areas that need additional attention. First, the college needs to look not just at whether employees' pay falls within the pay grade corresponding to their job description, but whether that job description even fits the work they actually do. Although staff members have filled out a sequence of job surveys over several years, some employees feel that the input they have provided has not been addressed. The first issue directly correlates to the second issue. All job descriptions at Lone Star include the phrase, and including my own, quote, responsible for other reasonable related duties as assigned, unquote. Some employees feel that the other duties as assigned have become such a large part of their daily work schedule that they are doing a substantially different job than the one they were hired for, often a job that would put them in a higher pay grade. The third area of concern relates to employee status as exempt versus non-exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Some employees have duties that seem to fall under both categories, so their proper status is unclear. The final area of concern is that within a given pay band, salaries are not always consistent with employees' credentials and years of service. Excuse me. At this point, it is not clear how and whether future phases will address these four concerns. Employees who have raised questions have been told to fill out individual tickets, but that is not really an adequate strategy. Our working group is drafting specific proposals for processes that would be comprehensive and transparent, that will deal with these issues we have raised, and we look forward to sharing those with you in the near future. In concluding my remarks for tonight, I'd like to shift gears. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of myself and all the members of the AFT to recognize the outgoing members of the Board of Trustees that are here tonight, Dr. Kyle Scott and Dr. David Halsey. We join others who have spoken this evening in our appreciation for your many hours of work, your commitment to Lone Star College, and the contributions you have made to our mission. We wish you both well in all of your future plans, and we hope that our paths will continue to cross with yours as time goes by. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. I'm good. Okay, at this point, board members, we need to consider the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have 15 items. Are there any items you would like to have considered separately? If not, may I have a motion to adopt items 1 through 15 in a second?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we adopt items 1 through 15. All those in favor vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Now it's your time, Jennifer.
Okay, hello again.
Hello.
So this month's financial report is presenting for the month ended September 30th, 2018. This is the first month for our new fiscal year 2019. So looking at your report first, before we go to the slide, first, we have made some tweaks to the report for our new fiscal year, the charts. We've tried to make the charts a little bit more helpful. So first, the actual revenues as a percent of budget. Now, this is just now showing now for month one, comparatively year over year. So you can see the percentages where currently for month one of fiscal year 19, we're at 17.2% of revenues compared to budget, and the line is where you can see that percentage over the prior 4 years. And then the bars shows you the actual dollar amount that has been received in revenues for month one for the prior year. So far we've received 66 million in revenues, and you can see how that compares to prior years. Of course, you'll notice it does go up every year, but that's why we are also showing that percentage
Yes.
of the budget. The similar change has been made to the chart just beneath it, actual expenditures as a percent of budget. So that's where you can see for month one of fiscal year 19, we're at 6.3% of our budget, which is not the lowest. The lowest was last year, but still relatively low compared to prior years. And that dollar amount is 23 million in expenditures for month one of fiscal year 19. And again, you can compare that to the actual dollar amounts of prior fiscal years. So if you go to the following page, statement of revenues and expenditures. First, since we are now in the monthly financial report rolling over the fiscal year, I want to talk about the cash reserve percentage, which is the main key piece of information that I sort of focus on in terms of communicating where our forecasted budget stands compared to what the board adopted. So that's where I have the slide up here. I used this slide last year too to kind of show the impact of rolling over the fiscal year on this percentage. The dollar amount from August 31st, 2018 to September 1st, 2018 doesn't change, but the percentage does. Because as a percentage, numerator, denominator, the denominator is expenditures. That changes when we flip the switch from August 31st to September 1st. So this is where in the top table I'm trying to show, that's why you see the 66.7 million doesn't change. But the total expenditures does, and that changes what the percent reserves is. So for fiscal year 2018, when you look at the 66.7 million compared to what had been budgeted, we ended at 18.9%. But if you look at it compared to what we actually spent, 340 million, August 31st, 2018, our cash reserve percentage ended at 19.6%. Okay, now switch though, one day later, September 1st, new fiscal year budget, that budgeted expenditures approved by this board is 366 million. So we started the fiscal year at a cash reserve percentage of 18.2%. So that's where we're starting the fiscal year at. Then the table at the bottom is showing where we would, with no other changes to the fiscal year 2019 budget, if If you remember, when you adopted that budget, we did point out in there that there was a $782,000 use of reserves planned in that budget. And the primary reason for that is at the time we were already forecasting to end fiscal year 18 at a higher reserves than we had set the goal for. So we were using some of those excess reserves in the FY19 budget. So that's what that the negative 782,000 is the planned use of reserves that was included in the adopted budget. So when you factor that in, and now the 66.7 million of cash reserves, if the budget happens exactly as adopted, we would expect to end fiscal year 19 at 18%. This compares to when you adopted that budget, the plan was for it to end at 17%. So I wanted to go through this to kind of just set that framework behind each month when I present the statement of revenues and expenditures and the updated forecast to where we plan to end the cash reserve. The adopted budget was to end at 17%. And where we stand now, because of ending fiscal year 18 higher than budgeted, it would be to end at 18%.
Is the 18% the amount we want to be at eventually, or is there a higher number?
Eventually, we want to be at 20.
Okay.
So we're working our way there. So going to the monthly financial report, right, this 18% now was if there's no changes to the budget. 1 month in, of course, there already is. So there's a few changes in the forecasted variance column of the monthly report. The first one being, I believe, something that we have already mentioned is the enrollment growth. The adopted budget included an assumption of 0% enrollment growth. For the fall semester, the actual enrollment growth was negative 2.1%. So we already estimated the dollar value impact of that on revenues for the fall semester only, and that amount was just shy of 1.2 million. And we allocated that out in budget cuts to all of the colleges and the vice chancellor areas. So in your report, you'll see in the forecasted variance, the 1.2 million reduction in tuition and fee revenues, but then you see the same dollar amount in a reduction in planned expenditures to offset that. So the item on here, though, that does actually impact where we're forecasting to end the reserves is we do have a payment to the IRS. We did discover this in time that it got expensed in fiscal year 2018, but the actual cash is going to go out the door here in fiscal year 2019. So that's where you see that below in the FY 2019 one-time cash transactions of 1.8 million. What this is it was discovered that previously sort of active Social Security retirees were not participating in retirement plans or withholding FICA taxes. And this was something this board has already addressed in a previous policy change, I believe just last month.
Yeah.
But so for these past amounts, that is a payment that we need to make to correct for this. But we are now reflecting that in this forecasted variance. So now that puts us forecasting fiscal year 19 ending at 17.4%. Not the 18, but still above the 17 that we had planned in the budget adopted by the board.
Did we already have the FICA contribution going forward in our budget?
Well, so now the correction is gonna
No, that
the
was a
policy
correction for previous years. I'm
Right.
talking about moving forward in the budget.
It's not the policy change now is that the employees make the election about whether to contribute into one of our retirement plans or to make the FICA withholding from the paychecks.
Right.
Yes.
But there's a FICA contribution by the college.
Yes.
Did we put that in, did we put new money in the budget to cover any future FICA?
In the fiscal year 2019 budget, no, we did not. We did not.
Okay.
Because as we've been working through this, like I said, it's really just been, the correction letters just went out to the employees just a couple weeks ago. So we're still getting the selections back from them as to what they're participating in
So we're
going
probably going to have to
forward.
put some money, or make not some money, but we'll have to create a category or something, a new budget category for, what kind of money are we talking about?
I do
don't
not have
think it'll be $1 million, but it'll be half something. Okay, well,
But most employees go into the alternative plan, don't they?
I would think that's
Yeah,
the
so it
better,
wouldn't
but
be
that's
in
up
the
to the
FICA.
employee.
we'll
Yeah.
get that answer for you. Okay, let's see what you're asking.
Okay, and so that pretty much concludes my report. I mean, so after that is the standard reports, which do not have very many significant changes. The Fund 35 report continues to be included in here to show how much we have spent there, which is at $20 million that we have spent on Hurricane Harvey recovery. And then if I could, just in the building and grounds report, the building and grounds report, we did also change that look as well to try to make that a little bit easier to read. It shows a map first to identify where all of the projects are that are then outlined in the report. So we did try to work on this one to make it a little bit more user-friendly. The main thing I want to mention there is actually not even on this report, is we did just recently complete the replacement of the wind chip roof at North Harris. So we are happy to report completing that work.
Jennifer, going back to Fund 35, what's the latest from FEMA?
Still working with FEMA.
Are we at 100% submitted yet?
Last I looked, I mean, we were at, I guess I don't have that number with me, but we were very, very close to having it all submitted. Where we're at now is having weekly meetings with our FEMA rep, and there's 100 or so project worksheets. And so at these weekly sort of status meetings, they walk through each project worksheet with the FEMA rep to help us understand where in the process they are. We did have a very good phone call with the state, TDM. So we know we have good contacts there that I think once we can get it out of FEMA and into TDM, then hopefully the work there can go a little bit more smoothly. We're trying to get some of the documentation that they're going to ask for to them now, even though usually they don't even request it until it comes to them. Now that we found out what some of it is, we're working on getting it to them ahead of time.
Remind everybody what TDM is.
Texas Department of Emergency Management.
And so the FEMA money is funneled through TDM. And I talked to one of our state senators this week who told me that it could be a couple of years before they get to everything. And I said, well, we're talking to anybody and everybody that we can at the state level and the federal level. And fortunately for us, we're in good financial shape, but
Can you imagine what the homeowners are going through?
yeah, I pointed that out. What about the colleges that don't have the reserves that we do or the capacity that we do? They all agree that something needs to be changed, but somebody's got to step up and change it. So,
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any future agenda items, board members? Hearing none, meeting's over.